All right. I promised y'all the last part of chapter 6 tonight, so here it is. Voter behavior, political participation. Now, there are non-voters in the United States. No, duh, Miss Patchen. Of course people don't vote. There are tons of people who don't. Now, the Greeks called them idiots. Okay, we get the idea of idiot. Idiots were those citizens who did not vote or take part in public life. It's kind of funny that that's what they were called. We still use the word today. We've broadened it a bit. But the idea is if you don't participate in your public life and your voting rights and your privileges, you're an idiot. Currently, millions of Americans who are eligible do not vote. We went over a couple of different options before. Maybe they're lazy, maybe they're busy, maybe they don't feel like they matter. All kinds of different reasons they could go for that. Now, for example, I believe this was the 2004 election. Out of 215.7 million voters that could have voted, only 122.3 million of them actually voted. Now, this was an election year for the president, so the turnout was higher. Typically, in an off-year election, the turnout rate is even lower than that, okay? That's still very low. We are, for a democratic republic, okay, we actually have a very low voter turnout rate compared to some other countries that have maybe what we deem a socialist system. They have more voting turnout than we do. Now, the cannot voters. There are people who simply cannot. They have been restrained either by circumstances, etc. We're going to go through a couple of different sets of them. I'm not going to require you to know the numbers, but you should be aware of what people groups cannot vote. First, we have resident aliens. 12 million were resident aliens in 2004. And we could argue that maybe that number has gone up since then. But the 12 million, okay, are immigrants, people here on visas for either education, work, etc., but they are not U.S. citizens. They are resident aliens. They're from another country, living here and working here, etc. We have the 5 to 6 million who are either too ill or physically disabled to vote. I gave the example, if you're in the ICU, strapped to machines for life, you're not going to be able to go out to the ballot and vote, or the poll to vote. You have other things that are a little bit more important in that moment, which is living. 2 to 3 million who were unexpectedly called away from home on voting day. We have, family emergencies, etc., or working emergencies even, and simply the idea of voting takes the back burner. So people who have busy lives or, have upcoming familial responsibilities, I encourage you to get absentee vote ballots, where that means they get mailed to your house very early. You have couple of weeks to vote. You mail it back. You don't have to go to the polling place, and you still are able to get your vote in. 500,000 plus people who reside in a mental health care facility. Now, we don't have asylums anymore, okay? We do have plenty of mental health care facilities across the United States. Most of them are privately owned. There are some public ones, okay, funded by tax dollars, and about 500,000 plus people live and reside in those mental health care facilities at any given time. And when you are in a mental health care facility, you do not have the ability to vote. 2 million plus in jail or prison. And about 100,000 plus who do not vote for religious reasons. There are conscientious objectors to the voting process. I have yet to encounter such a person, but I would love to really hear the reasoning behind it. Now, studying the voting behavior. Okay, there are 3 main sources for studying VB, voting behavior. First, we look at the results of particular elections. Yes, we look at every election and break it down, but some more than others. For example, the 2008-2009 election with President Obama being elected is constantly examined and applied to different circumstances and what-if scenarios. And so we use momentous elections for those are the particular ones. There are some that are not nearly as exciting as that one. We then have the field of survey research. People are constantly filling out surveys about their voting behavior, why they vote or why they don't vote, what are their motives, what are their viewpoints, etc. And of course, the studies of political socialization. If you can break that down, we have politics, political, And then socialization, what is influencing you? How are you being socialized in your current environment? Okay, your environment meaning where you live, where you reside, etc. Now, agents of socialization are as follows. We got family, school, peers, religion, government, media, work, ethnic background, clubs and special social groups, and even sports clubs, okay, etc. These are all agents of socialization. How you behave, they dictate and influence you on your decisions and how you're going to act. Similarly, we have this creepy baby with a bunch of ads on him or her, okay, that is showing how these groups, okay, these things influence us as well. ABC, Kodak, Windows, which would be Microsoft, McDonald's, Sony, beer companies, Starbucks, sports teams, etc. All these different labels do in fact influence us on what we buy, what we think, and we don't even realize it sometimes. But they are also agents of socialization. Now, the sociological factors broken down, we have income, occupation. What do you do for a living? Okay, how much money do you make? Those impact how you view the world. Okay. Usually the more successful you are, the more read you are. But that's not always true, okay? There's always going to be differences. There's always going to be exceptions. But usually Republicans are not nearly as in the lower income as perhaps others. But the point is that your income and your occupation do in fact influence how you're going to vote. Your policies and how you feel the world will change. Your ideas of taxes, programs, etc., will change based on your occupation and your income level. Education. Did you graduate from high school or did you not? Do you have a little bit of college or none? Do you have a bachelor's? Do you have a master's? Do you have a PhD or MD? Your level of education factors into how you vote, again, how you perceive the world, how you interact with others, etc. Gender, age. Either the older you get or the younger you get, wherever it is, you view the world differently, okay? I view the world differently than my mother, and I certainly view the world differently than my grandmother, but all three of us are of voting age, okay? Gender. Men and women think differently, okay? Surprise, surprise. We are not the same person. Our brains aren't made the same way. Our chemical makeup, etc., our likes and dislikes, our interests usually are different. Okay? Religious and ethnic backgrounds, okay? Depending on your religion, you're going to think differently than others. Are you a pacifist? Are you a Jehovah's Witness? Are you a Mormon? Are you a Christian? Are you a Buddhist? Are you a Muslim? The list can go on. That changes how you view the world. Ethnicity. Are you of multi-race? Are you biracial? Are you a family? Are you first generation? Are you second generation? Are you white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, Western European, okay, Central American? The list can go on, but the point is that these two factors influence how you think, what you feel about certain things, how you view certain issues. Geography. Where are you located? Are you on the east, west, midwest, south? Where do you live? Do you live in a big city, a little town with 100 people? Okay, people who live in the rural areas, like farmland, view the world differently than people who live in big cities or even suburbia. Things change. Family, friends, coworkers. What is your family dynamic? How many friends do you have? How do they act? Your coworkers, do you interact with them or do you kind of avoid them at all costs? The point is, these things impact your voting behavior for the rest of your life. Then we have the psychological factors. Okay? The voter perception of politics, how they see and react to the following: the parties, the candidates, and the issues. Okay, now some people react violently or they even get distressed when thinking of their opposite political party, the opposite candidate, the other side of the issues. Okay, people get physically ill, very upset, etc. But how do they react psychologically to those things? And of course, party identification. Are they loyal? Or are they not sold on the party platform? You're investigating the Democrats and Republicans right now for their party platform on certain issues. Does their platform sell you on a particular idea? Again, I say, you choose who you want to vote for and why. That is up to you, okay? Voting is a private matter to begin with. This is an older map, but the idea is party loyalty there. Now, party ID. There's something called straight ticket voting, which is the practice of voting for candidates of only one party in an election. So you only vote Republican, or you only vote Democrat. Regardless if you don't even know who the people are, you're going to vote red. Okay? But then you have the idea of split ticket voting, which happens more often than one would think. The practice of voting for candidates of more than one party in an election. So you're willing to vote for a Republican and a Democrat for different parts of, different offices. You're willing to vote for different positions, and it's okay to do so. Okay, that is an example of split tickets. Now, the term independent is used to identify those who do not have a party affiliation. There is a party called the American Independent Party that you can register for and vote for the independent candidate. Independents, when they say, like for political analysts on TV or something, they're talking about people who they don't choose a party, they just end up going into the polling booth and they vote. Okay? They lack party identification. Now, there's some forms of political participation. Lobbying. You're influencing the candidates or the people already in office with money, bribes, incentives, promises of investment in their state, etc. There's all kinds of types of lobbying. We'll get into that when we get into Chapter 9 on interest groups, but lobbying is one form. Public relations, speech giving, rallies, etc. Litigation is like suing. It's usually done in a courtroom. Protesting, civil disobedience. We're seeing that in Charlotte. But that civil disobedience is more disobedience than civil. Okay? But we're seeing protests happening. They happen all the time. That is part of your political participation. You have the right to go and protest. Now, what you do in that protest is restrained. You can't go and loot. You can't go and break into other people's stuff. Okay? But you can gather together. You can voice your opinion. You can march. You can do those things. But there is a line where you should not be crossing. Voting, which is the most important one. In California, when we vote for our propositions, we're changing our state constitution. Voting is very important. It impacts what happens in your local, state, and national government. All three levels of our federal system is impacted when people vote. And there's the lobbying. There's the public relations. There's the cute litigation stamp. There's people protesting. And of course, the ballot box that we're so familiar with the cliche high school movies for Homecoming King and Queen. Who participates? We can see here how it should be more of how they participate. As you can see, the more money you make, you tend to participate more on all levels versus people who are under the 15,000 mark. Usually people who make less than that or lower are in the poverty line and they're trying to make ends meet and just live their life. They're not really looking to participate actively in campaigns, etc. And then we have the Wake count, 2010 turnout by age group. The red is the false count, what people reported as to be true, versus the blue, which is the true. As you can see, 40-year-olds to 70-year-olds were the ones that turned out the most. Okay, the least was the people who were really old, which were in the 90s to 100, which would make sense. Then we have 80s to 90s, 70s to 80s, or roughly I would say that the 17 to 30-year-olds actually had a less voter turnout than the 70 to 80-year-olds. Grandma and grandpa were more concerned than the grandchild. Okay, so 2010, that's an example of who votes and why. Okay, here's a vote turnout by race in 2008 election. You can see that this was a high voting turnout for all races and both genders. Overall, the all eligible voters, 63.6%. That is so much higher than anything else that has been seen. Okay, that is the end of Chapter 6. Congratulations, you are done with our section so far. We start Chapter 7 next week.